Welcome to the Short Funk Podcast. I'm Tom Barbalet. Today, reflecting on those commercial podcasts. There's a independent podcast group that was set up under the strength of one particular podcast. I think they have about 5 or 6 podcasts that they do now. And I contacted them briefly because I like one of the podcasts that they're doing, or at least I like the first 2 episodes. The third episode, got a bit of an iffy smell to it. But I thought to myself, this is an interesting group of people. And I reflected on the fact that maybe this is just the new definition of podcast. Like I said, this stuck with me for all of half a day. I sent this group an email just saying, here is me. I've been doing this for 10 years. Please get in contact if you think there's anything interesting that I do. Then I realized something. I realized something very, very curious. Bunch of folks on this particular podcasting network. They produce about 7 podcasts, I think. Most of which they produce one every other week of the various podcasts they produce. How many people do you think that would feed? Like, how many people do you think a group that produces 7 podcasts, one every other week? Well, I guess, there's one every other week amongst the 7, so they obviously work them out. So they're getting out more podcasts than, one a week. They're getting out 3.5 podcasts a week. But you understand what I'm saying here. I went through the website, and it actually took me a bit of time. It was quite curious. There were a bunch of folks from Australia, from Canada, from the US. Almost all of them exclusively had backgrounds associated with public radio. There were some marketing people that had worked for, the usual crew, Procter & Gamble, NBC, these kind of corporations. I went through the list, and I realized that there were 57 people that were part of this podcast collective. This was a group that I thought was relatively lean and mean. But when I realized that there were 57 people that were having to be paid through this thing, through the sponsors, this wasn't in any way an efficient model, and this wasn't in any way a group that would really even understand the nature of independent podcasting, of producing podcasts for 10 plus years now. Is this my 11th year? I think it might be, maybe next year will be my 11th year. But anyway, having done this for such a long period of time, these people came from radio and advertising. They weren't my people. They didn't understand what I did. And I felt kind of chilled that I often find times when I think I'm finding a community only to be startled by the fact that this is not a community that I'm a party to. So I like the podcast that I initially found them through sufficiently to actually pay a subscription for a year, see what that did. And I noted that in my second email to them, but I received no response from them. They clearly are not of the same guild that I am. And also, they have 57 people to feed through this thing. It's just astonishing. I mean, if you calculate my 3 podcasts, I'd need to have probably about 25 people for the same allowance in terms of the actual airtime and audio record and this kind of stuff. I mean, if I had Ford and MasterCard and all these kind of companies as sponsors, maybe I could afford to feed 10 people through my podcasts. An interesting way to look at things, but certainly not the way I'm looking things going forward. But an interesting footnote in the sand. Tom Barbalet in San Jose, signing out.